Welcome to another edition of the Dental Today podcast. Thank you for stopping by. This is brought to you by labmediatv. My name is Hezekiah Morales, and here we go. Remember to follow us on social media at labmediatv. Jessica Knott, CDT, is a former United States Air Force laboratory technician who began her career after graduating the DoD's ADA-accredited laboratory program in 2014. After challenging her CDT 2 years early and obtaining it on her first try in 2017, she found her true passion through digital dentistry applications and 3D printing. After separating from active duty in July 2019, Jessica continued her career as a manager at Bayou State Dental Lab in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At Bayou, she oversaw digital operations while continuing her role as an educator for digital applications and regulatory standards in the dental industry. In July 2020, Jessica began working for Danny Dental Studio in Tempe, Arizona part-time to pursue her career in research and development as R&D manager and operations consultant. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Jessica Knott. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you for the opportunity. Absolutely.
I am so glad you are here. We were coming back from Chicago after actually meeting in person after trying to do this for so long, and we see that post that no one wants to see. You were in a car accident, and it was a scary car accident.
Absolutely.
Yet fast forward, you're here, you're on the show, you're well, you're healing, but it's so amazing to really get into the whole process of everything. And you're not even done with your healing process, and you've already got boatloads of miles under your belt here. So Jessica, how have you been since February, accounting all this 2020 craziness?
What can I say? 2020 has been a crazy year and pretty much mimics my 2019 of craziness of level of work. And Chicago this year was a great opportunity to, make a lot of connections, meet people like you, and a lot of connections with new research and development work. And I was really excited coming out of Chicago from that. And the car wreck was very unexpected just a few days after Chicago. Definitely want to take the opportunity to say thank you to the whole dental industry. They were super supportive of my recovery process. But, laid up at home coming from such a severe accident, there's one thing that gave me a lot of drive between my family and my kids to get well. Education to this industry, research and development. I have a really strong passion for digital technology, and it kind of seemed, as unfortunate as COVID was, there was a lot of opportunity with COVID because people were seeing more and more every day the larger availability of digital platform, digital education resources. And this was something I've been working on for years. And, no one really wanted to jump board until it was a necessity. And laid up at home in a wheelchair, I'm like, well, I'm not going to miss this opportunity to be a part of it, the growth of this industry and the change, and to hopefully lead some people in the right way of the industry. So it's been a crazy 2020, but I'm excited to tell you kind of all about it and what I've been up to. So
again, I am just inspired by your strength, your resolve, your tenacity, your resilience in the midst of all this. Again, this car accident, I was looking at the posts, it was almost instantaneously right after Chicago.
It was just a few days after. Yes, it was the following Friday from Chicago.
Right. And it was right there. We were coming back, and I was, I believe I was with my wife when I was scrolling into the Facebook and the messages, and I saw the pictures. I was like, oh my God, this can't be happening. Right. So how many fractures do you have to that leg?
It was 32 fractures to my right leg. Yeah.
Oh.
But, honestly, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I saw this as a very valuable life lesson of strength and for my family. And, your life, when you get into an incident like that, it does make you really step back and kind of say, hey, what's most important? What am I here for and what am I doing? What is my future? What's my plan? And that car wreck, set me probably even more in tune with the path that I want to be on, especially on the dental industry side and as a mother personally, than anything this in my life has. So as unfortunate as it is, it's giving me a lot of motivation and drive and really, kind of cleared my head to know what's most important in my life. So no, I'm good. I'm excited to be here. So
And and I find it's amazing how you find that perception is really the key to it, because you mentioned your children and the industry and the drive to give is really what's been the catalyst for your recovery. And you mentioned earlier before we were on air that you're 4 months ahead of your healing expectancy. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So it was a big surprise to me and my surgeon both when we went in 2 months after the accident, and all 32 fractures were completely healed.
Wow.
Yes, I have a lot of tendon and cartilage and internal development, but the fractures themselves were it was almost a miracle. So very, very been very blessed. And
that is awesome.
Like I said, with just the situation of COVID and what it was in, I needed that. Not only was I suffering from a car wreck, but I was watching the industry crumble. I was watching my own laboratory that I was working for, the direct hit we had down here. And at least that little bit of light told me, and so many others have told me before, you're not done. There's more for you to do. And, these blessings are being given to you for a reason. And, what are you going to do with that? So here I am, but I don't want to talk too much about the car wreck, honestly. It set me in my path, but I don't want it to define me going forward.
Right.
Absolutely. I was a strong person before. I'm just even stronger now. So
that's right. That's right. And you're under 30 years of age. You're doing great things in the R&D aspect of our industry, especially in digital dentistry. But before we get into that, how did you get into dental?
So it's a very funny story because when I was 19 years old, I had plans to be an engineer, and things didn't pan out very well. So I decided to join the Air Force. And I was super excited with the Air Force, all the opportunities that I was thinking of, intelligence, computers. And then Uncle Sam told me, because you don't get to always choose your career field going into the military. So I was told I was going to make teeth. And when I tell you, I cried my eyes out because I'm looking up this industry and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be pouring stone models for the rest of my life. Is all I saw. I called my mother at 19 crying, so upset. But then once I started the school for it and I found the artistry behind it, the technicality, and just really the depth of the industry, I know that I could be here every single day. I will never know everything about this industry. There's so many things unturned and uncovered that I know that I would be happy the rest of my life in this industry. Every day is going to be a learning experience, a new day. I'm never going to be satisfied with myself and just my personality type. That's something that I needed. And I found after I cried my eyes out, called my mother. So I actually graduated in 2013. I was 8 months pregnant with my first child from Fort Sam Houston. It's an ADA accredited dental laboratory technology program. And from there, I went to Keesler Air Force Base, where I worked I actually worked in the continuation program from that ADA, which is an 18-month on-the-job training. And in that facility, I was working for about 48 doctors, which included 7 specialties across the board, and also with a 2-year AEGD program with a 2-year fellowship of research attached to it. So what an opportunity, just coming fresh from school, full of knowledge and drive and learn, and to be placed clinically in that atmosphere for a laboratory. We consisted of about 15 people at that time in 2013. That was my first year into dental. So the military really provided me that opportunity of high-level education, and not only just that basis of education, but a full-time career position and an opportunity that some people could only, imagine and never even be able to achieve or be into. So with my time there, learning to be a technician, I did well, I will say. I had a lot of great educators there, even on-site leadership, and our civilian staff and our prosthodontist. It's really nice working in an atmosphere where we're not always worried about the dollar figure behind the treatment of the patient. We were always concerned with what was the best treatment plan, or what was going to be best for that patient. We didn't really look at it, what could they afford? And for me, that means I got to learn those fundamental processes. And at a certain point, it started getting quite a bit overwhelming. This is a lot of doctors. Unfortunately, in the military, we lose a lot of our staffing quite frequently with change of duty station and other deployments and other aspects of our job outside of the laboratory. So for me, I was always looking to try to find solutions. How do I improve? Where do we go from now? We're not going to get the manning that's unreliable in the military because of just all of our responsibilities. And I found that through digital technology with CAD/CAM. And that was my first experience, was on the CEREC side with my doctors on staff and learning, and they kind of messed with it a little bit here and there. But once I started supporting it on the laboratory side, it's kind of that demand and supply. Well, if I want to produce a digital supply, I have to raise that demand on my doctors. So working clinically with my doctors, not only training myself, but sitting with them and training them and learning and educating each other every day on a clinical and laboratory process. I was able to get a lot of great achievement, and with the team that we had in the military, I mean, from 2013, from when I left in 2019, I'm telling you, we had a small CAD/CAM closet, and when I left in 2019, we actually had a CAD/CAM laboratory with eight positions and seats, including this laboratory wasn't meant for laboratory technicians. It was actually built in the clinic for same-day dentistry for doctors and for assistants and laboratory support. So separate from that analog laboratory. And, it's amazing just in that short amount of 6 years, from the CAD/CAM closet of a CEREC MCXL with one PC to a full laboratory. So that was my personal experience with digital technology and that research fellowship that we had there as well. And the doctors, each resident, I was supporting their research work as well. I was really learning more and more about, these processes and how do we select, the right processes for us? What's going to be validated? What's going to work for the patient? Everyone has a process, right? But what actually works clinically? And from the laboratory, a lot of times we don't get to see that. We hear from the sales rep or the team, hey, this is great. Your doctors are going to love it. And then guess what? It doesn't work, and because there's not that continuation of training and education on the clinical side as well for those processes. So that's what I learned most working with the military in conjunction with their AGD2 there, and also the other specialties that we supported. And right before I left, I made a big leap in my career, and I did my first lecture experience in being an educator. And I did that in conjunction with our maxillofacial prosthodontist, Dr. Travis Bellici at Keesler Air Force Base. And when I say I'm a nervous speaker, that is an understatement. But he was able to kind of groom and mentor and lead me to those qualities, and he knew that I had the knowledge. It was just about how do I relay that information to a crowd so they understand as well. How do I take, this amazing opportunity that I've been given and share those experiences with others? How do we give back? And I always say this, all the time, every single restoration that I did in the military, all the research work, all the education work that we did for those doctors, that is paid for by taxpayers' dollars. So why would I not want to give that information back? It's not meant for us to be kept. That's why things like the Air Force Manual have been, that laboratory Bible for so long. And I just love having that educational opportunity and to link the two from the civilian and the government sector and kind of combine it into one. So that was my experience in the military. And my very last day I left was that lecture I did at Fun in the Sun last year in 2019 with Dr. Travis Bellici, and I did it over 3D printing and industry changes, because my last year in the military, I became kind of obsessed with 3D printing. It was so new, and I kept seeing all the processes, especially in the clinical side, and I wanted to know everything about it. So 2018, 2019, in between about 422 CE hours and hands-on actual 3D printing experience with the support of course, my squadrant and my maxillofacial prosthodontist. I was able to lecture over 12 different printing platforms and about 70 materials in an hour and a half to the whole Dental Technician Society of Louisiana, Mississippi. And that was a stepping stone for me, just personally. You know, the day I left the military, I was lecturing at 9 o'clock in the morning wearing full service dress in the military, and by the afternoon I was wearing civilian clothes, you know, standing with Dent Supply Sorona, Ivoclar, Noac Dental Supplies, and just saying, hey, I'm Jessica, not Sergeant Knott. So that was just last year.
And what has that transition been like from military to civilian?
Yeah, it's been really interesting, you know, being able to see both sides of it, and coming from that very clean, structured industry where, you know, it's always patient care first, you know, chain of command, protocols for everything. Coming to the civilian side, I would say I was super excited about, you know, because I'm going to learn just as much as I have to give, right? There's two sides to this. So I was excited about those opportunities, and I started the Bayou State Dental Laboratory in Louisiana, which Tristan Hall and Tony Hall were good friends of mine when I was still just up the street at Keesler. And, you know, they had CAD/CAM needs, and I said, well, what a great, you know, transition or opportunity to kind of get my feet wet. So they're a really fantastic laboratory, and I love their regulatory backing because they're DOMIS and CDL certified. And personally, for me, I was just overwhelmed. Wow, the difference, the quality of work that I was receiving. I'm used to receiving just very high quality, just, you know, never a dollar figure, but always the top of the line education and training from my doctors. And if something wasn't right, you know, even if preparation had a sharp edge, I just call my doc and say, hey, we should re-prep this. Let's give it to him right. And that was okay. But here, you know, I'm getting to see a lot of, oh, let's just make it work, you know, impressions that come from whoever. So as overwhelming as it was, I learned a ton. Just initially that first 6 months, and sitting on the CAD/CAM side and the 3D printing side and the management side and having this communication with doctors, it really grew me as a technician on the civilian side. And during this time, I was still actually continuing my research work because I love working in research and development. But the one thing I've learned is the minute I stop acting as a technician and I just sit in my fantasy lab all day, my eyes are not right. Like, my eyes are on the ball, my mind's not right. You know, you have to be in it every day. You have to see what's in the industry, what's out there, to be able to say what we should do in the future. So I still work as a technician. I'm still doing ceramics cases and CAD/CAM designs every single week. I have a fantastic doctors I get to work with. And through those processes, I'm still learning from them and supporting their clinical aspects with 3D printing and chairside milling. So it's a great collaborative effort. But so on the research side, I was still working with quite a few companies when I was at Bayou State, mostly traveling long distance. And it actually wasn't until the car accident after Chicago, I decided to make a full-time career change for my laboratory stance. And that was, you know, just a kind of a personal decision of mine, because when I'm just coming off the car accident, I'm looking at what my future is and how much time I have left. Because now I kind of feel like maybe there's opportunities for me to do more with certain things, but I wasn't taking them. So with just kind of how COVID went and all the situations arise, I actually left my laboratory just for a larger size capacity laboratory to support the research work I was doing. Everyone loves to do research, but it's very hard to fund, you know, and to get paid at the same time to do it. You know, it's the pro bono work. But honestly, I do it for nothing all the time, and it's because of the impact it's going to have on the patient care that is in the industry. So I don't mind. But so actually, I'm in my home office right now in Louisiana, but I just got in last night, and I haven't been here except for 2 to 3 days. The past 3 months, I've been out in Arizona with my new position I took at Danny Dental Studio there in Tempe, Arizona, as their head of research and development, and also the operations consultant for a full service laboratory. Very large sized laboratory for most comparison in the United States. And wow, if I thought that my prior laboratory sat about 30, 40 people was a headache and, an eye opener and overwhelming. You should step into one, 2, 3 times the size. But just coming fresh off the car accident, I kind of just dove in head first and, evaluated all departments. The people of your laboratory are kind of what makes everything. And on a consultant stance in working that position aside from R&D, that's something I learned from the military is, you're as strong as your people are. And as a manager, in a consultant position, it's always, my job is to take care of my people, to take care of the laboratory. So, wow, that's a lot of people out there. And I can definitely see their strengths, but I love just being able to work in that atmosphere. And it's so well versed in so many different backgrounds and cultures. I mean, just on different languages in the laboratory, I think we're at about 12.
Wow.
So the cultural backing and differencing, and everyone comes from something different, and everyone has so many different things to offer. So then again, like I said, as much as I'm there teaching digital processes and 3D printing and that technology side, wow, I'm learning a ton. So yeah. Wow. So the reason I chose not to move full time to Arizona is because I still had work here in Louisiana that I really wanted to be a part of on the research side. And honestly, Louisiana is kind of more my home. And with the COVID situation, of course, we're learning more and more of those communication situations to where we don't have to be there on site and we can work remotely. As easily as I'm talking here to you, I can communicate with my CAD CAM team there in Arizona from Louisiana. So I'm doing a part-time, and where I spend half my time here in Louisiana and the other half in Arizona, but working for both every day. But this way, I can continue my work down here, which I'm really excited to tell you about, aside from the Danny Dental Studio work that we're doing there for large laboratory validation and 3D printing and those digital workflows, is LSU this year was able to purchase a digital anatomy printer from Stratasys. And Stratasys is a company that I've kind of advocated and worked with, their printing platforms for quite a few years, stretching back to my military days. And for them, it was more on that research side. We were working with educational modeling for the military and those different schools that we had. And so as a dental progression kind of came in, and I had a close connection with LSU from my government kind of position. We were only about an hour apart. Edwin Key down there. He's been absolutely amazing, especially my military career. That was like one of my civilian pillars to hold me up, I guess you'd say, because I was so disconnected at times. When they purchased the printer, he said, Jessica, come down and take a look. And we were collaborating on a couple things and ideas. And I said, hey, Edwin, I just see this opportunity to make such a change in education. How do we make surgical models or, realistic dental models for education? Why are we still stuck in, the old time? Why are we using human trials and patient trials or animal trials? We're in 2020 now. This is the technology we have available to us. So we started kicking off that project, and actually the first day I walked out of my wheelchair was the day I walked to LSU to meet Edwin Key to see the digital anatomy printer. So, wow. What a path to be set up on, what the motivation. And all along this time, as I'm there working with them and, coming up with, our protocol and what we're going to be doing, over these next few years to kind of achieve these bigger education goals, I was wondering, well, how are we going to relay this information? Are we going to do it? Are we going to do it in a publication form? Are we going to do it in black and white paper? Here we are again. We're in 2020. Mm-hmm. What's the future of this industry? We've already seen a huge impact just with the COVID situation and the lack of that hands-on experience. It's gone. Everyone has to remote into the PC, which is great, but they take your mouse, they do what or you're stuck on a screen share. Where do we start integrating that on a digital level, with all this great research work that we're doing? So That's been kind of that was my plan for the last 3 months was, achievably, how do I tie this all together? When things come back out right, all this work I'm investing so much time into, and, multiple others in the industry that are supporting me with their research work and vice versa. What's the future for us?
What is the future in education?
What is it? It's really up for question, with a lot of other speakers and KOLs for different industries. This past February, right before Chicago, I was with Ivoclar, and, here I was with their new 3D printer, their ceramic system, their new mill systems. And I was really excited about the educational opportunity I was going to do in Amherst this summer. Well, who knows when that's going to be? We were all impacted by COVID on a different level. And the first thing to go in those cuts is going to be those extra expenses, which unfortunately is education. So I was super excited to find a potential education platform that I thought might be the solution for me. And this was in Chicago, just like I met you in Chicago at the White Peaks kind of ceremony after party there. I was able to meet Vincent Silva at the Ivoclar party. It was the first night of Chicago. And he's telling me about, all these kind of crazy things. I'm hearing it, I'm not hearing it. But, what stuck out to me the most was his structure for digital technology, because something, everyone comes to me, Jessica, how are you so progressive? How do you do, 3D printing and CAD CAM on such a high level, high level? And I always say, well, it comes from the structure. It comes from that base ground. Setting up my, even my home office or my home servers, the networking, the computer build. You have to set that baseline so you can be successful with kind of those added accessories. To where now in the industry, everyone's like, oh, if I buy this dongle set and this 3D printer and I throw it here, it's going to work perfectly. No, there's that disconnect in the dental industry of people, they don't understand that foundation.
I agree. So
it's a nightmare, and you want to help and you want to support people so much, but when you walk in, you just shake your head. You're looking at the router with the Netgear switch attached to it, and 5 different Cat5 cables from various things. Looks like a telephone line. You can start to find those problems, but you don't want to be that bad person to tell them. So right. For me, I kind of fell in love with this idea that his company DHC had, and it was by creating that ecosystem, that platform, and with a focus on dental. So for me, that helped me out a lot, because I've left the military and I've kind of left all that support that I did have on, especially the networking side and on my civilian sector. I wanted to have those PCs that were optimized for my actual CAD CAM softwares. I wanted the PCs that would support, my actual rendering and generating my files for my 3D printers, because, those with the accuracy of the PC, I mean, it actually increases the speed and processing time of everything you're doing, even with the mills on large production, like a laboratory that I'm at. So that's where it kind of all started, with, believe it or not, the education side, because then later he kind of brought me into tune of, not only are we doing this and supporting this on a, a lifetime warranty and technical support as well for laboratories, but he let me in on a project, that was just released a few weeks ago, which was his virtual reality platform.
Wow.
And I said,
wow.
And I've been holding on to it for a couple of months, being exposed to that level of education and coming from my hands-on. Here we are doing Zoom, and I'm trying to show, my laboratory over, oh, do you see this? Do you see this crown? I'm trying to show these models. He had opened me up to his sister company, VHS, and Jed Archibald, who's been supporting a lot of those efforts with him as well. And wow, my mind's been blown. And I'm super excited that, them as a company, they just came out, and I can't wait, just me personally with that platform of how I can use it, not only for my own personal use with my laboratory and working remotely with universities like LSU, but how I'm going to use it as an educational opportunity moving forward. Because, I'm doing a lot of validation for printing processes right now. And, I don't know if you've seen the video of August de Oliveira with the virtual reality platform, but here he is kind of just giving those little glimpse videos where he's throwing like 3D printers around into his little VR platform, which is the same one from VHS. And I'm just like, what is the future? You know, what are we moving to? And I really believe this is a great option for us. Not only is it going to be a cost savings, but when it comes to the future of what we're doing, those hands-on opportunity. Think about actually doing a preparation of teeth in a virtual platform and having those resistance give. And so not only now am I focused on kind of the 3D printing aspect of education and those modeling and recreating realistic structures, but also on the virtual side of it for when you can't always be in contact. So like I said, and this has all happened since Chicago this year. And then, of course, as much as I love all these, you know, really large 3D printing platforms, the work that I get to do with Carbon at my large laboratory there in Tempe, Arizona, and then also kind of Stratasys down here at LSU, where I felt like I was falling short personally was the support for my doctors and clinicians. You know, how do I support them as an educator? And I started kind of getting more into
oh my God, sorry about that. Go ahead.
I started looking for those clinical solutions for 3D printing and milling solutions. And I've always had kind of my favorites. There's a lot of great validated subtractive solutions there for clinical, you know, using milling solutions chairside. But the printing side has been a bit unstructured. And especially on the clinical side, there's a lot of practices that I've been concerned with the safety of patients because you know, the education kind of stops there at dental laboratory. You know, unless you have these other clinicians that are kind of rising to the top, you see, you know, these past few years trying to get that that education out there and more awareness, but you want to make sure they're getting the right thing. And the validation of materials, safe processes, you know, this is something we know so well in the laboratory. You know, we're always, as a class 2 medical device manufacturer, we're aware of, you know, what works and what does not. You know, how the longevity of these processes, you know, has it worked? You know, it's tried, tested, and proven. You know, this is what we rely on in the laboratory. And it kind of hurt my soul coming from the military of always patient safety, patient focus driven, and on the 3D printing side, that's lacking. And there's a lot of unvalidated processes, and you know, people are using like light cure lamps for nails. Like the same thing I get my nails done with is what they're posting in. And we know with the regulatory movement into this industry, and especially since 2017, that these things aren't acceptable anymore. You know, we have to all hold ourselves kind of accountable to that level of patient care and safety, and that as exhausting as it is to work in this new kind of regulated industry, it's for a good cause. I mean, it's not because the FDA wants to be nasty. It's just because they want to make sure that for the years that we've been doing these analog processes, these digital processes are actually validated as well. So I actually started working with Acaretta out of Taiwan, which is a 3D printing company as well. And they do a lot of validation testing for materials for the dental industry and actually other industries as well. So instead of going kind of to the middleman of the industry of the dental side, which we don't know 3D printing, I decided to make an opportunity to go to the 3D printing source to better give back to those companies that were utilizing different materials or printing technologies from these companies. Because, you know, I was getting stuck in the middle source. I was telling the dental team who would tell the 3D printing team, who would then make a solution, go back to the 3D printing team to me.
Right.
But we all know communication is everything.
Absolutely.
So I've been really excited to work with quite a few prosthodontists here in the United States this year, doing more validation of materials, and especially with class 2s that will be releasing, you know, structured throughout this year and early into the next quarter as well. And I'm just excited to have, you know, those solutions more readily available, especially to our clinicians who I felt like they just haven't had them. You know, they were kind of making the best with what they had. So, and luckily, you know, all those great educators that are like me out there and kind of looking for that better future for the industry and moving forward, I know that we're going to be just side by side, using the highest level of education and technology to be able to communicate that to the rest of the industry. Because as much as I really enjoy working with all these different dental companies, I mean, they've been the backbone of my whole career. I mean, top to bottom, especially on government support, I didn't always have the resources that other people had, and I relied on them heavily. But, as a speaker and as an educator, being tied to a company to speak on their specific processes, it's hard for me. I'm much more of an open educator. If it works, it works. Even if it's not the company that is paying me to speak to say it works. And I had that mental battle from the start of the gate, just coming out of the military last year. And, I believe everyone in this industry deserves a fair shake. And I don't think the dollar figures should kind of, persuade someone's ideology one way or the other.
The concept. Absolutely.
Absolutely not. There's a lot of great solutions and processes out in the industry that just don't have those big company backing. So I don't mind to work in any of them, and I tell people this all the time. Yes, I might educate for certain companies or work on certain processes, but to this industry, I always say, I'm everyone's girl. I'm this industry. If it works and it's a good validated solution that's going to help this industry, I'd love to be a part of it. I'll never turn a blind eye.
And when you're talking about education, and I like the way you put it, this is 2020, right? Meaning, listen, there are things at our disposal that we must begin to use. There's no question about it.
Absolutely.
And this whole VR that you mentioned, and possibly even AR, augmented reality, and all these endless possibilities. Where do you see this? Where do you see this going? Let's say in the next 12 months.
Well, in the next 12 months, I can say we'll definitely see a much larger virtual presence. We're already seeing that with a lot of the online education groups and people searching for those virtual solutions. And this is where it kind of gets into lack of awareness of what's out there, because I'm seeing more and more companies or educational platforms think that they're getting into VR and paying kind of top dollar because it's something new, again, to our industry, and they're not getting the results they want. So yes, I see it kind of growing, but I see a lot of limitation because of different companies and different partnerships that people are doing. If you buy into a baseline structured platform that's only on 2D imaging and doesn't have the capability to actually have those rendered 3D modeling into it, then what are we really doing here? We're just walking around, on a Sims game and kind of looking at nice, like, oh, look, here's, let's just take for a good example on a Sega printer. Oh, here's a picture of a Sega printer in this nice little digital booth or, convention show that's been set up for me, versus, hey, what is this 3D printer? Actually having it print, opening up, seeing the different, how the software interacts with it or the hardware itself, and being able to use that as an educational tool like you would if you were on the showroom floor. I mean, I know it's going to happen, and we're going to see the 2D kind of stuff come out. But I hope for the future of the industry, we see that we still have to have that hands-on. Most of us as technicians, especially, we're very tactile learners and hands-on learners.
Yes.
So how are we going to bridge that gap? And again, going back to VHS with Vincent Silva and Jed Archibald, that was the promise that they made to me and that they have been delivering. And it's the only platform out there that I'm seeing it on. I'm seeing just, more and more of these 2D platforms. So I'm hoping that as we grow as an industry, we don't forget that, this isn't a temporary solution. This is actually the future. All because we're forced into it doesn't mean we should do something partially. Especially in dental laboratory, we get stuck in our ways. And you can see that from, years and years and years of the industry. Like, if it's not broke, we don't have to fix this. This denture process still works, and it always will. But I just hope that everyone kind of invests into that brighter future for us on a digital education platform. And I know I'm speaking for a lot of the industry, especially on the research and development side, just, what a blessing to have the technology available to us.
Yes.
Because, what about if we were stuck in this situation and it was 4 years ago? I mean, most of us barely even had, video communication or Zoom capabilities. It was even newer than it is now. And we saw kind of the limitation we already had with this COVID. So unfortunately, as this COVID situation has been, at least we were kind of prepared in a sense that a lot of these great companies will continue to push forward because of our digital support. And that's what it goes back to. And I'm happy to be a part of it, and there's a lot of great people in the industry I'm getting support from to work with that make me a better technician every day, and so as I continue to grow as a technician, like you said, I'm below 30 years old. I don't know everything. I just hope that I can provide great solutions for the industry, and that's what it's all about. So
it was amazing, the word choice. You said the people in the industry make me a better technician. The technology is just a tool, Absolutely. But certainly the connections with the right people and the right attitudes and the right visions, I believe, is certainly what's pushed our civilizations forward. And in this moment, this crucial pivoting moment of communication, even in this time, I believe is paramount for us to understand what you just said. That was a very deep concept you just shared. And we really appreciate your time that you were with us here, Jessica. What an amazing story. What an amazing process that you've had. When are we going to be able to see you next? What projects do you have online coming up where we can see you, listen to your keynote? Let me know. Let
Absolutely.
us know.
Yeah, coming here forward, I'm going to have the availability to do a lot of virtual. So we'll be seeing that in the next coming months, and I can't wait to kind of share those and put those out there to show you some of the research work that I've personally been working on. So, and I can't wait to hear, just everyone else's story and what they've been able to come up with on their own, because I know, like me, probably a lot of people are saying, hey, this is the digital path, So I can't wait to see coming out of this year where we're going to be at, because I know it's going to be just levels and years ahead of last year. So, but thank you so much for having me and for your time and just for the opportunity.
Oh, we appreciate you coming on and making time. I believe it's very important for us to hear what's going on in the industry from different professionals, great professionals as yourself. Again, you're under 30 years old, yet you have so much to offer and so much more to give these upcoming years and the development of technology and all this. So we appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, whether you're listening to this on a podcast or you're watching the video, the links are going to be in the description where you can follow Jessica, send her a message. You can follow her work, follow her research. We are very privileged in this industry to have people as you that are strong and resilient and keep moving forward. Jessica, once again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, till next time, this has been the Dental Today podcast.